What would you do if you were alone, growing up, trying to figure out the world, and you had no guidance? What if you had no mentor? No father figure? No grandmom, no grandpop, no uncles or aunts to guide you? How would you navigate the world? How would you learn? How do you fix this sink? Or buy some stock? Who knows? How would you know what to do? Would you succeed? Excel? Would you pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Or would you be fucked? So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content, and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles.
It's pretty big.
Oh, well, I'm Dan. There's Nick right
I'm
there.
Nick,
I see him. I see him right there.
In the video, you can see me?
Oh, yeah,
That's
I can
amazing.
see you.
Technology's incredible.
Everyone can see
Technology's
you.
incredible.
For what you are, Nick. Everyone knows.
The truth. Well, as you'll notice, I have extra furniture in here.
Yeah. You've become endowed. Is that the right?
I'm transitioning.
Okay. And we're the UnPanderers.
And
Come with us on the journey.
Transitioning my computer workspace, but I don't think it's going to work, so we're going to turn it into a dresser
Nice.
for clothes
Yeah, that's great.
for
So-
when I transition.
Are you... You're not an orphan, I don't think.
I am not. Nor have I ever been an orphan. Are you?
No. Do you know anybody?
Have you ever been?
No, never. I'll never be.
Huh.
Until I'm much older, hopefully.
Maybe.
No, you can't be an orphan if you're older.
No, you can't
over
be.
18.
Older than 18,
Yeah.
that is correct. We're going to bring out some wiki definitions here, but that's just...
Got him.
I do know an orphan.
Yeah.
My father-in-law.
Well, he's not an orphan anymore, but he was an orphan.
He might still be. He's
He's
hasn't
child.
progressed past age 16 in his mind, so we're going to say he's still an orphan, technically.
Is he normal?
What is an orphan?
Yeah.
No, not at all, but I don't think it has to do with the orphan thing. We'll get into that, honestly. So, an orphan, someone who lately, I think 2015, they changed the rule. UNICEF made their definition now. You can only have lost one parent to still be an orphan,
Be half orphan.
but it's still considered an orphan. It's called a double orphan, or double
whammy.
orphans, or those who have lost both parents. Do you know what the numbers were?
It was like in certain countries that are war torn or have a bunch of AIDS,
course.
loads of AIDS.
Loads of it.
Some of them
It's
are
actually a really big part of it.
It is, yeah. It's surprising. This is the saddest topic that I started on, and by the end, I was like, "This is gonna be awesome." So, it's gonna be this is gonna be a journey. But yeah, in certain African countries, it's like 11% of the children in that country are orphans.
Yeah. The 18 double orphans are those. Okay, 15.1 million of orphans are double orphans. The bigger number, single parent orphans, 140 million. If you added that population, it's the 9th largest population in the world.
That's
if
crazy.
you went by country,
Yeah.
it would be like right behind Russia. I saw this fact and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Orphans, if they were
United.
collected and in their numbers and sheer strength of orphan power, would make up a country bigger, like as big as Russia. That's insane to me.
That's massive, yeah. How do you think
So,
you
like-
would do if you were an orphan?
Terrible.
Terribly?
Actually, okay, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Here's the question then. What part of me, my personality and stuff, and how I deal with situations is from my parents?
Nature versus nurture.
Because then, yes. So I don't know. I mean, I think I would do great, but that's because I was raised by my parents. How'd
Yeah.
you do as an orphan? I do great. My parents raised me perfect. Like, I don't know.
When was the
You know what
last
I mean?
time you saw an orphanage?
I don't know that I've ever seen an orphanage.
It's because I don't think they exist anymore in the United States. Not in the form that we like think of as
Like
movies.
a house.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
house
yeah.
with a bunch of kids in it that are just left to their own.
It's all like custody and all that stuff, right? Like
Foster
care.
homes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The United States, I believe, actually, I can tell you, 30,000
19.
homeless or neglected live in New York City. Damn. That's crazy.
Kids or just homeless?
Kids under 18,
30. How many?
30,000.
30,000.
Yeah. But, this is about, Adoption Safe Families Act. So apparently a big deal happened in 1997, the Adoption and Safe Families Act.
Mm-hmm.
It was
It
really
solidified.
important.
Yeah, it solidified the way that we deal with children and put the care of the child in the foremost. So it made it so that instead of like having to deal with these goddamn orphan children, it was more like we should care about these children because they're important people.
Well, and then there are only certain families can get them. The foster care system.
Running,
Foster care.
only the way you put that, it's like act now.
Well, like,
You'll have 20 minutes act to get your
well,
orphan.
It's not like they can do it to anyone. Like, hey, Jimmy, I know you guys are doing good over here. You got 3 kids. We're giving you an extra. Why? It's like he's an orphan. We need you to foster. Listen, this is from higher up. You got to take him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want another kid.
He's tiny. He'll fit in a cupboard.
He's
It's
fine.
okay.
He's good. He's good.
He's in that dresser back there. It's okay.
Do you know what a foster family gets paid to have a kid?
I do not know this. This is interesting.
Nah, I didn't find it because it was different state by state, and I didn't do enough digging. But it was like different state by state. I think it's state based. Even states have a few different rules. I think there's like a unifying rule that holds them all together. You can look it up, but even every country deals with their orphans differently. We're gonna deal mostly with the United States, but my man here thinking
$22 per day.
times 300. What's that? 350? What's that?
I don't know, but
Not
they
enough.
offer an
Not
additional
enough. Let me tell you that.
$150 for clothing. Wait. Multiple. It's actually
Ooh,
$22.15.
That's a good rate.
I switched
Is that the
keyboards to
United
make
States
it. I'm typing here. I'm typing.
Oh, good.
$8,000 a year.
To house a kid? That sounds great. Oof. Sounds terrible.
Depends where you live. This is like what the hell do they do? Like college? No, I forget what it is. Corpus Christi apparently. If you have you get tax credits for having children, or you used to anyway. So like there used to be people who would say, "Oh, this is the geniuses. This is terrible." There's a mathematical formula to like how many kids you can have before the kids take care of you. So like people would have like 8 kids so they can get like $3,000 in like tax credits back, so that they can have $24,000 a year essentially. And then like if you hit a certain poverty level, they like give you more money because you're like disadvantaged. So
Poverty.
like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
balance your children between like your own well-being, and then you don't have to do anything. You're like you just
Interesting.
exist
So
off
there
the
is
government check.
there's a sweet spot. Is that what you're saying?
Probably there's a sweet spot for these foster care families too. Not that there's probably a bad one in there. We haven't found it yet, but most of these people are probably good because
Interesting.
taking in an orphan is probably challenging in a lot of
It's
different
weird
ways.
because like orphans are also like the butt of jokes. Like you're an orphan, you're adopted, you're foster, you're this. Like you're
I'm Batman.
what's that?
I'm Batman.
Batman was technically a double orphan.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Shout out Batman, the
Ooh,
original
Batman.
DO, as we call them, the
Yeah.
DOs. What was I going to say about it though?
Foster family, getting paid money. Corpus Christi.
They are. No, it was about just orphans in general. Where do we get the notion? Because like I think of orphans different as a kid than I do now, and I think most of my orphan ideas were shaped by like Fievel. Does that make sense? Was Fievel?
He was
he
was
an
an orphan
orphan?
for a short period of time because his family was
Okay.
back in New York, and he
Okay,
set
so
off
he was
down the
like-
raft to go find
Yes.
fame and fortune in the West.
I think he was to find the
Adventure.
even sadder one. Not Fievel Goes West. That's Fievel Goes West.
Wow.
That sounds awesome. Fievel, the original, was like his parents were from Europe. I think they were
Ah,
Russian
it's the-
or like Croatian, or I don't even know. And they sent him to America in like this bottle, and it was all real sad. And I remember, I feel like he had run-ins with the orphanage. Like that's where he stayed. I feel like with other young people, and I feel like that's what orphanages were. And like I mentioned, how my stepfather, in quotes, he was an orphan. He was orphaned in the Philadelphia system, and he was a bad egg, if I may say so myself.
Oh.
He was kicked out of three different orphanages. He was tried to give foster homes, and he none of them stuck.
Hmm.
And he was big into sex, drugs, rock and roll, that kind of
Nice.
stuff. Being a rebel, driving his motorcycle and getting in an accident, like doing all sorts of wild and crazy stuff that was reckless. No, and this is going to sound weird because he'll never hear this, but and maybe he will. But like, he's a hardy guy. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's like outspoken. He will say anything to anyone. He will be nice to anyone. He will be mean to anyone. He will speak his mind. He's the loudest person you've ever met. If I hear him at a grocery store 3 townships away where I didn't know he was, I know it's him. I just hear his voice and I go, it's Fathead. Like, you can find him. There's something about him that's very loud. He's very vocal, very extreme. Anything he believes in 10,000%. And maybe it's because of the whole orphan thing.
So
Which,
like,
I'm not getting into psychology, but like, no one to hear his voice. He had to make his own voice.
yeah, let's. It's like if you're left alone by yourself, you pretty much have to create your own identity while other people are all around you. So I watched a documentary on like this guy growing up in a Romanian orphanage, and it was pretty much that like instead of like a jail and a cell, like the cribs were the cells. Like these children would grow from babies to like toddlers, and they'd still be in the same bed, and they would
Yeah.
just be unattended. Like they would just be like stay in your cell and just exist. And I don't know how
Well, so
anybody
you
would
have a
learn from
kid.
that. Yeah.
How many man hours do you spend with your damn kid? And I say damn because it's a lot of damn hours.
Like
Too many damn hours.
Recently,
It's
it's like maybe like 14 hours a day.
that's ridiculous. And now
Yeah.
you go from 14 hours to borderline
Zero. Maybe
an hour. Well, let's say an hour.
if there's a
2-minute
caretaker,
interaction.
like if there's
Yeah.
the ones I've seen, like there are beds probably like like a dozen or 2 dozen beds in a single room,
In a room.
and there's probably
like a real long
a
room.
care-
That's
one-
the orphanage room, right?
yeah, a giant bunk beds. Probably no one sleeps because it's probably constantly making noise. And then the people who are in there, like it's not just like, oh, you lost your family. There are people in there because of like war. They might be like disabled in some way. They might be like mentally disabled in another way. And like I'm pretty sure that like not that orphans are awful. I'm gonna get like, teetering on the PC side of it. But like
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the orphans are not well adjusted, and you got to deal with like what I dealt with as a kid, like the town bully or the school bully. Was probably super tame compared to like most of the kids that are in
What?
orphanages.
Right. So there's tons of borderline personality disorders. There's tons of mentally not quite right people. There's tons of people who have to bully. There's people who are injured mentally, psychologically. Like there's a whole mix of stuff, and there's not a lot of parents or adults to kind of separate it all or like make sure that everyone's okay or people get care at
Who
all.
cares about the emotional welfare of a child in an orphanage? Like, I don't know. They probably have therapy now, but it seems like back then
Maybe
no
that's
one
even
cared.
that's even pushing it now.
And then it's even like there's like a Stockholm syndrome piece of it too. That this guy that they followed in the Romanian orphanage, he was adopted into another family, and even when he was with the family, it was like not normal for him. He was like writing letters to the orphanage saying like, "Bring me back, because I'm not like I can't live in this system where it's like a family home, and I don't have people around me all the time. It's
A
very
little
strange."
bit like the crooks wanting to go back to prison.
Yeah, exactly.
Shawshank Redemption, a little
Yeah.
bit like you're not adjusted enough to be in an adjusted world.
Brooks.
It's Brooks. What? Oh, I said crooks.
Brooks.
It rhymes. It counts.
Yeah, close. It still counts.
It does
There are
count.
crooks in the
If
prison.
it rhymes, it counts. So, with orphans, like that, the conditions were never good. being an orphan's never good to begin with. Like, you don't want that situation, and then on top of that, it's all compounded. It's all like, you could probably find a million books or YouTube videos or TED Talks about how the foster system is a failure. The foster care system is a farce. The foster care system it's not good. Probably correct. I don't know enough about it personally. I don't go in and check these houses, but even in movies, depicted in movies, foster care parents are like jackasses or like kind of terrible people in movies, not necessarily in real life. But there are people who are preying on the system, maybe using it for money, maybe just picking up the kid to whatever. But it's weird because it's not your kid. It's hard to, like what we just said. You're not going to spend 14 hours a day with someone, and
you might, but there's a
You
biological disconnect, because even the kids that are growing up in a foster care system, even from a very young age, they're aware that the people that they're living with are not of their tribe. So, like, the cortisol and stress levels of an orphan are much higher than a regular kid or like a biological child. So they're more compromised. Their immune system is compromised, and it's harder for them to learn. So they're disadvantaged from a biological standpoint. That they're put in a system that they already feel stressed out about.
That is wild, and I guess there's no easy answer. You can't reunite them with their parents if they're dead or AIDS or they're gone or whatever.
Well, they gave them up.
It's just like, is that considered orphan?
Yeah. So
okay, it said both parents dead, but I guess have given up rights to entirely counts.
Yeah.
As an orphan.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So like, here's the crazy thing. So we're old enough. What was an orphan if it was given up? Like, what happens? What's the old story?
This is I don't know what movie this is from, but they put it in the little bassinet, and this is probably biblical.
Yeah. And where does it go?
Sail it down the river. It lands on someone's doorstep, and then the nun whips it until it's happy.
Our generation. Come on, man. Where do they go?
Where do they go? They go to that giant
no, dude, a fire station.
Oh, a fire station? Which one is this? What movie is this?
You don't know that? So hold on. If a lady's giving up her baby and she can't raise it, she puts it in a straw basket and puts it outside of a fire station.
Oh. I thought she flew to Chicago and then she performed a legitimate operation and then got rid of it. So she's good.
No.
I thought it was dumpster. Isn't dumpster baby a thing?
No. That is a thing, but I think that's more like attempted abortions, isn't it?
Yeah, but sometimes they survive and then they become like Iron Man or...
Well, someone... No dumpster babies were Iron Man, dude.
Well, hey, bootstraps here. Bootstraps
all the way to the top. Oof. Yep. No, Iron Man had rich, famous parents. He's actually white privilege.
He was just emotionally disconnected. He's an emotional orphan. Let's not discount those people. An
emotional orphan. There are several dozen million of those.
Yeah.
So where are we going to go next?
I don't know. The beginning? We didn't... So, like, the reason that, like, a lot of these orphanages were generated is because of war. And it's like, we kind of touched on, like, why people become orphans, but not, like, why the system was generated. So, like, way back when, I think sometime in the 1930s, in the Depression era, like, these orphan children, like, you would think they would have some place to go, but back then they didn't. So, they would, like, go out away from the cities and like form these like little like orphan camps, and they'd be
Tribes?
like they'd be like feral children. So like I imagine that these rich people would drive into the country and they'd see these packs of children and go like, what the hell is out here? And they're like, we have to deal with this, like this is absurd. And eventually they formed like an association to bring them together into these orphanages to find a place to put them, because they can't have packs of feral children just roaming the streets and into the hillsides.
Kids survive?
Ooh, that's a good one. Lord of the Flies?
Well, I was just, I mean, like, so that was like the course of like 5 weeks, wasn't it?
So
Piggy and Ralph and the conch and everything, and then like they were all, one of them died. Piggy gets thrown off the edge. Yep. Spoiler alert,
Fire.
If you Lord of the Flies virgin, you better rewind this 10 seconds and, hit mute, but...
Yeah, if you're older than 16, you have not been forced to read it in an English class, or you can't read. Sorry, orphans.
Or feral children.
Yeah. So that's a fictional version. Do you know there's a real version of that?
No, is there? Is it
Yeah.
which one? Which one came first?
I think they came about. I think the Lord of the Flies came before. So there's a Tongan.
So wait, a fiction came out and then a real life version of it
When
came
did
out
Lord of the
afterwards?
Flies?
Which is wild.
I thought it was
Who
like
knows, man?
1960.
1936. You see how I said 36? Yeah, you're probably closer. Probably 56.
Book. Oh boy, I have to search.
William Golding.
1954.
Right?
Yeah, William Golding.
William Golding.
224 pages.
That's
quick.
It's excellent.
Quick read.
Quick read.
So
I got the conch.
I got the conch.
Sucks to your ass more.
So the Tongan version is that there were 6 teenagers, ages 13 through 16, who decided that they wanted to go sail to Fiji
Live on their own.
because they were tired of their existing lives. So they got on a boat.
They didn't like their parents.
Yeah, rebels. They stole a fisherman's boat, and when they set sail, nighttime hit and they all fell asleep. And when they woke up, they didn't know where they were, and there was a storm, and they tried to, I guess, fix their udder or like pull up the sails, and those things broke. So they were floating in the ocean for 8 days, and they hit this island, a massive island. It looked like a giant doorstop jutting out of the ocean, and they ended up living there for 15 months.
Oh, and this is real, right?
Yeah. The reason they were able to live there is because of, A, the culture of the Tongan people is like, make sure that you don't kill your own people. It's like be courteous and stuff in all situations, and they're pretty hardy. And then B, like there had been settlements there before, so like there was some food and like chickens, and they were able to actually like fish because they had that in their culture. So they were able to like build a little society, and even when one of them broke their leg, they were able to like support that person even though they couldn't do anything to survive. Plus those guys were specimens. They were beasts. Like they looked like they were like 18-year-olds as like when they were like 14. I don't know if it was afterwards, but they were jacked. I was like, man, look at those Tongans.
Not malnourished. Those lucky boys. If anyone has a picture and can send them my associate Dan, he really would like a picture of those boys in their prime. I just want to say, woo, he got sweaty under the collar. Note, he's smiling ear to ear. Just
That's so inappropriate, Nick. How dare you?
Anyway, Tongan boys, sign up. But incredible though it is, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like anyone under 10, I feel like can't really survive on their own in the wild. I know there's going to be stories of like an 8-year-old that did this, or 7-year-old that found food and water. But by the time you're double-digit age, maybe. Single-digit age, I'm not buying it. And if you do, it's a freak occurrence. It's not normal. If I left any other 8-year-old outside in the woods, they're dead. Okay? That's my guess.
I love the Wikipedia article on feral children, or feral child. Have you read this?
Why does it have a link? No, I have not.
Like I was reading through it normally, like I would a normal article, and then I started reading like all of these young children that, like, under age 5, like they're raised by a certain animal. Yeah, so like like the first things I read was like Marina Chapman. She claimed to have lived with a weeper capuchin monkeys in the Colombian jungle from 5 to 9, and it's like the animals, like the monkeys, they take care of the child like it's their own. So they feed and like make sure they're protected, and they will fight for the child, and like crazy mammalian like biology says like, well, we have to protect our own. It's like our own as like a, what is it, species? It's not even species. It's like, what is the level at which like we fit in the same category as monkeys? It's crazy.
Genus, species, class. Anyway,
one of those things.
Someone will school me. Order, who knows? We don't know science, folks.
Anyway, when I was reading this article, I missed that. I was like, okay, so we can be raised by monkeys. And then I scrolled down, and it's like, and all the children that were raised by wolves, and all the children that were raised by dogs, raised by bears, raised by sheep, raised by cattle, raised by goats, raised by ostriches. And I'm like, what? What?
Ostriches?
Yeah. The ostrich
That's
boy.
Absurd, dude.
He was in the Sahara Desert at the age of 2.
Going to fuck
from
me.
age 2 to 12. He survived by a pack of ostriches.
Hold on. This is literally blowing my mind because I don't believe it. There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
An ostrich family. Ostri. What's plural of ostrich? Ostriches?
Ostriches.
No, it's got to be something cool. That's boring.
What's
I wish it were like ostry.
A pack? What? It's like
a group of ostrich.
Yeah.
A gaggle of ostrich.
Let's see here. It's called a herd.
That's boring too. Either way, I think it would I'd make fun of the shit of that kid. Yo, ostrich boy. Yo, your mom's legs for days. Like, you know what I mean? Because they got long arms. Yeah, that's good.
Take a look at those talents. But
yo, is that a feather duster? That's your mom's ass. Smack that. Boom.
Boom. So it's kind of like bizarre that like certain children, like A, that animals will take care of children, and B, like the children that are actually raised. So there was one story of a girl who actually had a family, had a home, had a house, but her family neglected her so much that she would spend time in the kennel with their dogs, and instead of learning English because the parents just didn't speak to the child, she learned to like bark and growl, and that was her main form of communication. So like if you tried to talk to the girl, like her first desire was to like bark and growl at you rather than try to speak to you. So like her development was completely delayed until she was like in her teens, and then she started actually learning English.
You're bringing her up, dude. This is the funniest thing. So anyone who's taken any classes in psychology, any college courses, any high school classes,
Oxana?
Jeannie.
Oh,
no,
Jeannie? Oh, you're talking about Jeannie. What was Jeannie's thing?
Yes.
She was a telepath and could lift chairs with her mind?
No, good lord. The one who was raised by,
fictitious parents?
No. Her parents were, like, kind of bad parents, people say. She was chained to a toilet and had, like, she lived in a room. So no one discovered her till she was 13. No one ever talked to her. No one ever really, I don't know. Once in a while, her dad would beat her with a baseball bat if she ever made noise. So she was never spoken to, and she never spoke. She didn't know any language. She didn't know anything. No one talked to her. She just lived chained in this room. Anyway, it's like the biggest psychological breakthrough. Like, can someone learn language afterwards? What innate abilities do humans have if they don't interact with other humans, essentially, right?
Yeah, do they become Tarzan?
And the whole thing was that a little bit, yeah. Now, she never was normal at all. Like, language areas of brain are divided. She was never fully able to be able to learn to speak. If you're fluent in one language, you can learn another. She never really became fluent in anything. Yeah.
So your brain forms in a certain way that's like unbreakable, and then like you also lose like pieces of emotion and pieces of like society that you just can't learn.
She was like, everyone was so hot for Jeannie because like she was perfect. We could do all psychological experiments.
She didn't have a twin, did she? That would have made it.
Not. That would have been the. Oh my god.
Jeannie and Gino. Like, hey, like, oh wait a second.
Would it have been cooler if they were raised separately in complete isolation and one was like French? I don't know. So, yeah, it's just weird stuff, but it was feral children. She's like the grandfather of feral children. I'm trying to see if she died. Born 1957. Locked room. It doesn't say she's.
Her identity was hidden. Her identity was hidden because of so many people that were like, "Hey, can I study you?" And she was just like, "I can't tell you no."
Really? Is that what they did? They did that?
Yeah, I think the people who originally studied her kept her under wraps, put her back in a basement.
Completely cut off from isolation.
Where she wanted to be.
Attached to a toilet. Right where she needed to be.
Poor Jeannie.
Poor Jeannie. Anyway, I think there's a level of something that you have to get in your youth. I mean, development. Yeah. That's pretty obvious. Your body's developing, your mind and everything else has to too. And I think what we get from this whole orphan thing, from feral children thing, from all of these things is that you need feedback, you need input, you need mentors, as you mentioned at the beginning. You need guideposts. You can't just wander around this ocean alone. So I don't know. I guess some orphans figure it out, some don't. Some feral
Yeah.
children survive with ostriches, some don't. Like, what is that? I don't
So
know.
the stats for like a I guess a well-adjusted orphan or something like only like in comparison like a normal person like of the orphans that graduate it's like 20% reduced and the people that commit crimes like if like orphan versus normal person it's like you're much more likely to commit a crime if you're an orphan because of whatever reason like you're missing a
Well, think of
piece of
this one. I
something.
mean, you're also
You're
aren't
angry.
you
You're probably
living a
angry all the time.
pretty impoverished
Impoverished,
life?
yeah.
And if you want something, you really can't afford it. How are you going to get it? I mean, you have to steal it or
True.
do something. Yes, right?
Yeah, so
Got to skew the stats.
how did your relative overcome orphanry?
He, for as much as he's abrasive, loud, and extremely noticeable and unique, those things often enamor themselves to other people. Like, it's a real quality. So he
Trait.
is, yeah, he's one of the more unique people you will ever meet. He's strong, not just in will, physically,
He looks
emotionally,
like a
mentally.
Tongan 15-year-old, right?
Yeah, he does. He does. I'll send you pictures later. He he's he knows what he wants in life, and he sort of goes towards it. Right now, he's an entrepreneur. He makes stuffed cherry peppers. He like hand does them, and like people know him from.
It's a stuffed cherry pepper.
You know, if you go into a bar and you order a pepper shooter,
No, I've never ordered a pepper shooter.
you ever have a pepper that's filled with cheese and meat, and you can eat it?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a pepper shooter. Shooter's usually done by a machine. He does all his handmade. He buys cherry peppers. He cores them. Well, he has his people core them. He buys extremely expensive meat and cheese, prosciutto and sharp provolone. Stuffs them. He has a special oil he's made that's like spicy, and when you eat his stuffed cherry peppers, they are actually. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not prejudiced because I would say they suck. They're the best stuffed cherry peppers I've ever had in my life. They're also like $18 a jar for like 12 peppers.
You have a jar of them?
Yeah. Oh, he makes them in a jar with the oil and everything. And he hawks them and sells them. And he sells them to supermarkets. He sells them to VFWs. He sells them to bars. He sells them to restaurants. He sells them to everywhere.
Do you just pop them right out of the jar in your mouth, or you heat them up first?
Oh my God, no! You pop them right out of the jar, dude. Pop those bad boys. The issue is, if you have more than 3 or 4 in a night, your butthole will burn like a mother the next day.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, you can use the oil and everything too. You can cook with it and do all this shit and like whatever. Like he has expressions like I've worked with him where he's selling the product at like pepper shows. You don't even know a pepper show is a thing.
Uh-uh.
Oh, a pepper show is a thing where hundreds of tents filled with different kinds of peppers, pepper shooters, stuffed peppers, pepper jelly, pepper this, all line up, and people walk up and down and buy stuff, and you have to yell. And he is louder than anyone else who works any of these tents, and more interesting. He says, "Hey, brother, what the fuck's going on?" to a stranger, and the stranger goes, "Yeet," and everyone else is just quietly waiting by their thing. And he goes, "Get the fuck over here! You need a meal. Oh, and where's your skinny broad? Bring her over." And bring her over, and then he says, "Listen, I got these hand stuffed in America with meats and cheeses imported, or what does he say? All the meat from Italy, just like my kid," or something like that. He has all these expressions and stuff. Bottom line is, he is.
Is that what he did
he's made
straight
himself
out of
proud.
the orphanage? Like he just
No, he's had different jobs with a township where I believe he told his boss to F off and punched him.
Oh, interesting.
Lost his job there. Now he has tendencies. Man.
Feisty.
He's
Short-tempered.
yes. Maybe because of the orphanage thing. I have no idea. It's also who he is. But you have to definitively go in one direction or the other, I feel like. So maybe that's what he's done.
Yeah, that sounds like a good story.
And in a way, he's self-made in business. He's owner of the company. He makes his own stuff, prints his own labels, makes sure everything's FDA, whatever. He kind of had to be self-made as a person.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he didn't have parents that were there to guide him and make him do X, Y, and Z. So it makes sense. There's a lot of people who fall into the trap of their parents, right? Like they live the life their parents gave them. They are waiting for mommy and daddy to coddle them.
I never
Like
lived. Yeah.
orphans will never be that. So as much as they're disadvantaged in so many ways of life, they also make or break. They will find their way. They will find their, what would you call it though? Mentorship? Someone to follow? Someone to guide them?
I don't know. I don't know if they'll find that. I think they have to find their own voice and then just follow their own voice. There's also,
But you don't create from nothing. You always kind of have heroes or something, which is interesting.
which is
So you think
strange
orphans
that like
always get do orphans get to pick their parents in a way?
it's kind of
In a
sad
way.
and joyous
Like
at the same
like
time.
of course,
So
they're
it's
not
like
your real parents, but like
cartoon heroes are mostly orphans or something.
maybe I don't know, man. Maybe. What if you like Tony Robbins and his motivational speech? Like, and you guide your life after it if you wanted. Like, that's your
Gotcha.
father figure. Things influence you, right? Because they have to. I don't know.
So what would you do if you, I was like,
don't
A,
know.
if you were
I'm
an
telling
orphan,
you, 'cause-
but B, like, if whatever you would you do, what would you do if your child became an orphan? Like, are you preparing for that event? Are you trying to prevent it? Like creating a structure so that like,
Bennett, like hell, dude. He's a mommy's boy and a daddy's boy. He's both.
so this is the scenario that most people don't realize. Like even I'm super
My
prepared.
son would die on that island.
Yeah. He'd be eaten by a squid or something. Giant squid would just.
A squid. A Minecraft squid would eat my son.
But like, I'm super prepared. Like most people say, like you have to have a will. You have to like put your child's guardians in it, and they have to like direct money at wherever they need to be. But like,
Right, we didn't even touch on that weird stuff where, like, if your aunt and uncle live too far away and everything else like that, they can take your kid and make them an orphan, right? If you both die.
yeah, like I don't.
Which
I,
weird laws, right? If
well,
your grandparents aren't around, let's say.
I
Or
assume
their grandparents. I think it
the,
probably varies state to state, but I think if it's, like, just your aunt, they might not be able to just say, hey, I want legal custody. Like, it doesn't work like that.
well, they have to determine which family is the most fit to have you, and mostly it's a close relative. They say that most orphans are actually living with a relative that is like, in
Okay, they
the
will do that? Okay, I
immediate
didn't know
family,
if it's,
extended family.
like, if it's an aunt in a different state, I feel like they're just like, hey, we're going to put you in foster care because you hardly have interaction with that aunt, or do they usually say, hey, it's up to you, aunt, or how does that work?
I'm kind of curious at this. I've not
Like,
researched this
I'm
part.
curious as well because both parents died. They live in Pennsylvania, right? Kid's now an orphan. Just happened suddenly. No one had a will ready. No one expected this. He's 6 years old. Do they go, hey, he has an aunt in Texas. Are we going to call her up? They visit once a year. They see each other. It's not like they're strangers, but they don't really talk every day. They don't know who the heck she is particularly. She has her own 3 kids. She's not ready to take a new mouth to feed. Do they, hey, go and live with your aunt? Or do they foster care?
This is
I know if it's
specified by the court. It doesn't say.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a bunch of factors in there.
Case by case. Yeah,
Yeah.
case by case, probably. Weird.
So, like, do you do anything to prevent that? Like, if you
No. Oh.
if you were wiped off the face of the planet, who would you want? Do you have like a sister, or you go to your parents, or
My parents. I mean, they raised me, and I feel like it helped make me who I was. And I think they would be
have you had
most
this conversation
able.
with?
But I'm thinking it right now because I have 2 sisters, but they have their own kids that are the same age.
Yeah.
So they're dealing with their own families. It would
They don't
really
neglect them. Yeah, maybe
no. I don't think they would neglect them. I think it would throw a whole monkey wrench into
their own lives.
and,
Yeah.
and their kids, and it would raise the kid who was your cousin as your brother, your cousin here as your new sister. Like it would be
Like
it would be
Alabama.
weird.
Yeah.
But I think, God willing, my parents are still alive, and they were still the age-ish now. I'd want them to go to like my parents or something and be like, because now they don't have kids that are getting in the way, so they can focus their entire attention on my son, and they have financial means, and they know me from raising me as a kid the most. So it's like they can pass on whatever they passed on to me, and kind of carry on what I try to do for my kid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there's a piece there
What
that
would you do?
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I have like a semi will, but it's not finished in any way. It's not
Okay.
finalized. It's
Did
not
you sign
legal.
it? Wait, did you sign it?
I think we signed a version, but then it was like
Ooh, Italians think signing a will is bad luck. I didn't want to bring that up on the
uh,
podcast, but I just did. Ooh, you
it was a
signed
long
it.
time ago.
Oh no. Okay,
Oh
good.
no,
Good.
legal.
Good.
So I named my sister because I felt like she was most qualified, and I feel like my parents, like even though they probably would be good role models, they're becoming old and
Your
antiquated.
parents feel older than mine. Is that weird?
My parents are 30 years older than me, so they're like 65.
My parents are 18 years older than me, or 22 or 21.
I think that makes a
it does
significant
make
difference.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. It does.
Because I don't know that they'd be physically capable to take care of a child in like 5 to 10 years.
Right. I see what you're saying.
And my
Parents, all this or whatever, not to be mean, they could, all of you, if God forbid anything happens and everyone's watching this video, all of my sisters, all my parents, everyone's welcome to watch my kid if I'm deceased. Like, I'm not against that. We're more or less thinking what's the best fit for everyone.
best choice.
Best
And
choice.
I'll put it on record that we have discussed this with my wife and I, and my sister's the one that we would like, and they know that. We told them.
And that makes sense. Dude, makes total sense.
The weird thing is that you haven't thought about it, and you haven't talked to Ange about it.
Huh?
Your significant other. I should have.
God, you can say her name. I don't give a damn.
Everyone will
Okay.
know. Oh my god.
Everyone will know. God.
So like
What?
having that conversation of like who's best, like you're eventually that your side of the family is
versus family.
best.
Family versus
yeah,
family.
exactly.
Right. So she didn't mention her family and my father-in-law, who is an orphan. And right.
Yeah.
She would probably say her parents. Actually, she might say her sister, who we live with, but that's weird too because she's single. And I don't think that's bad. It's just like it's hard to.
It would be the easiest transition for your son, but you don't believe it would be the best option for your son.
Not even that. Just she's one person. I think two
Yeah.
people just makes it so much better because you split the load, the time. There's
Yeah.
more
You're tired of them.
diversity.
Get rid of them. Yeah.
Well, because if one person raises you, you're really looking at one set of ideals. I
Yeah.
almost think the two
Brainwashed.
people that have differing ideals and kind of hate each other
Nick's parents.
gives you options. No, not my parents. Dom, my son's
You and your own parents, your own son's parents.
yeah, my own son's parents. Anyway, it gives you more options so that like you can pick and choose. Like, oh, I do agree with this part of my mom. I do agree with this part of my dad.
Yeah.
I do agree with this. I see how they're different,
You see it
and I
makes-
don't agree strictly with one versus the other. It's
And
weird.
you see the interplay between the two,
Yes, of course. The fun interplay.
which is like dealing with society and social interactions, makes it so that you understand both sides.
Yes.
There's a political element to this that I was like, I just realized now, I was like, we could go into that, but I don't know if we want to. No, he's going to avoid it? All right.
Let's wrap this episode up.
It's kind of early. Early to wrap it
Yeah,
up.
well, some of us have to
Take-
urinate. Getting old.
we can keep this one short and nice and tight and
Nice and tight.
strong
People
around
like
the
that.
midsection.
I didn't have more facts on orphans. I mean, we talked about the adoption.
Yeah.
Facts. Let me see. Here we go. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, the United States. I wanted to see how that worked out. Do you know the United States? Certain countries actually have laws in place where they can't inter-country adopt. Like they can only adopt from their own country because there's so many orphans. I'm trying to find it.
Have you
There we go.
heard that?
Good.
There was this one YouTuber that adopted an autistic child and made
Mm-hmm.
her YouTube account based on like the process of adopting a child, and she just recently said that she was unadopting him. And it's like it's sad. She was unprepared to be a parent, but she made an entire channel based on that thing.
Come on.
Yeah. So I feel sad for the people that are. So I have a relative who's autistic, and he gets proper care, and he has his own home, but he's like watched by guardians, people, caretakers who are there constantly, and it's just kind of like it's sad as well as like good, I guess, in the same
Eye-opening.
note.
Eye-opening. Like you see what's going on. You're like, oh, well, that's
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a
So
mentality
sad,
of maybe
but
a
also-
3-year-old, and he gets to live on his own place, and he's cared for. But I mean, I don't know where that person would be. It'd be like Sparta, like 300, if he was built like born
Right, like he might not
1,000
make
years ago.
Megan
Yeah.
5 years, Megan is 5 months old. Who knows? It is weird. This is weird. We didn't touch on it. Ethiopia, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Russia all have discontinued any inter-country adoption because the amount of needing to be adopted in their countries
In their
is
own
so
country. They don't want the parents going
A,
out
so
of the
high.
country to.
Yeah, why? And that makes sense to me. The United States is one of the highest adopters of people from outside the country. Wow, 500,000. Jesus, we roughly of these three. The United States uses China, India, and South Korea the most. 500,000 orphans in China, 20 million orphans in India, 17,000 orphans from South Korea each year. Or not each year, right now. So, okay, orphan, anyone under 18. But it's just wild to me that we didn't even touch on the political aspect that way. Like where the orphan comes from, what country, how they come into the country. The whole adoption process is insane. Doesn't it cost thousands and thousands of dollars?
And they have to
to
verify
adopt
that you're
a
making
child
legitimate money.
from
Yeah.
India? They verify you. They go through a vetting process for like 6 months. You have to get approved. It has to be brought into the country, and then you can adopt. Where there are, where did I touch on? There are 30,000 like homeless children in New York City. I'm not here to tell you you can or can't adopt from wherever. I don't know. It's just it's weird to wrap your brain around that, isn't it?
That you're
Well, like if
rolling
you're
the
in New York,
dice. Yeah.
you live in New York. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to adopt a child from India. You spend $40,000 on adoption paperwork and everything that doesn't even guarantee you're getting the child. You go visit. You pay for the plane ride. You check out India. You go. You find a child that's 2 years old, lost its parents. You say, yes, this is a child we want to adopt. You go back. You fill out more paperwork. All these people have to vet you. All these different companies have to come and check to make sure you're legit. You make the money you say you make. Everything else. They come, they approve you. 3 months later, that child you visited in India, you pay to have them flown over here. You pay another $40,000 for adoption paperwork, whatever else it is. All the while, there's 30,000 homeless children in New York City that don't really have a home or living between homes or in foster homes, and it's just a weird thought. I don't know
So you could
how
care.
the two.
You could probably care for one of those homeless children without ever paying a dime, and just say, "Come into my house. Let me take care of you," and then the emotional bond could be there. It could be as strong a bond as you could get from a foreign child.
Keep in mind, though, that
not
that
legal.
practice is also a slippery slope, not legal, and I see why. If some child molester started just taking in kids from the street,
Oh yeah.
there's no regulations, or bad parents, or abusers, or who knows what. Like, it's
Loophole.
loophole. But like, that's what I'm saying. It's like a whole weird thing where I don't even get all the moving parts, and it's it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me all the way across.
Yeah, and there's a preferential thing that, like, I don't know that I mean, I already have my own children. If I didn't have my own children, I'd probably be like, yeah, adopt, because there's an element to having children that you just can't experience, than being a parent and trying to deal with literal shit all the time. And if I had my own children and an adopted child, I feel weird because of the time that I spent when they were super young raising them, that I don't know that I would
Whether
make that bond.
It's a real investment, sort of.
It would take
Whether it's
a lot of
intentional or
time.
not. Time spent.
Yeah.
Time spent investing. 14 hours a day, whatever the hell it is, right?
Yeah, and it like, I don't know if it happens. So like, first child, like, if you like Twilight movie where you imprint or whatever on that child and then you become bonded, like, I think it takes a while for that first child to, like, you really bond with them. The second child, I felt like I bonded with much more readily. So I wonder if, like, the people who are, like, in these foster families or they're adopting children, that they're going to be like a Brad Pitt or an Angelina Jolie, where they're adopting, like,
So
oh, let's just add another one.
Like 8.
Yeah.
I got one. Yo, he's cool. I got him.
You
It
start
is interesting.
bonding more and more readily with more and more children.
I don't know. This one said 20,000 children a year age out of the foster care system in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah. At one point they turn 18 and they're not in this system. So where do they go?
What do they do? They become homeless
Crime,
people, probably?
homelessness, like
Yeah.
you got to really hope to hell that you already have it figured out by 18. So hopefully you've had a steady parental foster system in place that had you go to school and you have a career track, because otherwise you're kind of screwed, because
Yeah.
you're not going to have anyone. You're just thrown off a cliff. Good luck. Hey, good luck. Hey.
So for my own parents, like if you took away the guidance from my parents, I probably would have dropped out of high school. I probably wouldn't have gone to college. I probably realized that I needed to do those things when I was in my mid-20s, but I would have already started a life and been in a direction. Probably would have met somebody and maybe even had a kid. I don't know that I...
You don't have time to go back to school.
Exactly. So I don't think I would have taken any of those paths. So I would have been behind the 8 ball, and that's coming from probably from a well-off perspective, that these orphans probably don't, like, if you don't have guidance and you're making minimum wage and you don't want to go to school, I don't know how you justify that you can pay your rent so you can move into your own place. You probably drop down to either homeless or living out of a car, because I don't see how you get
living
by
with 3 people.
Yeah, living with multiple people. You kind of
yeah.
That's a tough start. That's a really tough start, and then you don't have somebody telling you these are the right things. You hear all these probably rumors about what to do or where to go or how to get
who
educated.
To believe, what to know. Yeah, that's wild.
So,
whew. To wrap up Orphans.
Yeah, someone has to take a piss. Let's I don't know. God, they're screwed, but some of them make it. That's tough.
And you know what? I also think talking about this subject originally, it was so bleak and so bad that I thought just being an orphan sucked.
It's gonna be terrible.
But something you touched on earlier made me go, holy shit. And it was this. Worst case scenario, humans, if they aren't raised perfectly, I worry about them. They don't have good parents. The parents fight. Their parents don't prepare them for the real world. Their parents spoil them. They're too good for them. You need this perfect balance to have a perfect child to turn into a perfect person. But there's no fucking perfect people. There's no fucking perfect parents.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are raised by drunks, abusive parents, parents who are fucking too busy working and doing other shit, parents who are I don't know, just into some weird shit. There's tons of horrible parents that could screw their kids up. There's tons of orphans that just do their best. No, I'm talking about the people with parents.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the people with parents, the parents are abandoning them emotionally, even though they're physically there.
Yes. Then there's orphans who maybe have great support or have great vision or just smart kids who just get it, and it doesn't matter whether there's a parent there. They know what they want. They get the education or the support system and they use it. Then there's pieces of shit on both ends, and I'm like, oh my god, my head was spinning. And then you said this boy was raised by ostriches, and I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, screw it all, dude. Humans will find a way. You can literally abandon a baby, leave it with ostriches, and there's a chance that it could survive and become an adult human who functions in society. So my takeaway is this: humans are way hardier than I thought.
Yeah. We are animals.
And I think, and I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't have all the resources. And I think we should try and help them and do whatever we can. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they surprise us.
Yeah, I hope someone turns this into a cartoon, has that prototypical child staring out the window with a tear in his eye, sees a pack of ostriches, and he just decides, this is my moment. And the last thing he says is him sprinting, jumping on an ostrich.
Towards the ostrich.
Yeah.
I heard of ostriches.
Boards a train and then steals.
It's just crazy. So people can do anything. They're hardier than we think.
Steal
having
our
bad parents, having no parents, having ostrich parents won't ruin your life. Might make it pretty terrible, but ultimately there's a lot of other gambles, shakes, breaks, and other things that go into it.
Yeah.
So
those Tongan boys who are shipwrecked on an island for 15 months.
Sweaty boys.
Yeah.
Sweaty boys.
Some of those guys that I watched an interview and they said it was like they look longingly at the island. They remember that time of like growing together fondly. So
never know what's going to make you. You never know what's going to break you. So shout out to all the orphans. Anyone without parents.
Yeah.
You're at a disadvantage, but maybe you make it. Maybe do something good. So
yeah.
Thanks for listening.
We
check out all our socials, the ones that we have here.
Yeah, click and subscribe and hit that little bell thing, and then send us comments via real mail, email,
real mail,
whatever
send a real mail
got
from the orphanage. Use their post.
Find us on LinkedIn. Figure out our home addresses. Come outside. Knock on my door. Come knock on my door.
Let us know how you feel.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We definitely like you, folks.
We like you to a point.
Thanks for listening.
Which is a lot.